Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jessie Ann Reilly. Welcome to the virtual Sugar Art Show. Wasn't it so much information? What a great show. I'm very happy to see everybody, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fantasy peacock. And then I'm going to show a technique with Isomalt using a chain art. The product in Isomalt that I'm going to use today is Simi, S-I-M-I, cakes.com. They're Isomalt, and it's a pre-tempered tiles. Very convenient. There's you don't have to do any tempering. Put it in the microwave in a silicone bowl, such as this. For 30 seconds and then 15-minute intervals till it's at a rapid boil. Then let it settle and use it. And I'm going to also be using their clear Isomalt. Also, what you can do is use my code for a 10% discount on the site when purchasing any of their molds or anything that is not already discounted and that is not kits and classes. So if you go onto their store, you'll find all kinds of molds and edible sheets. They're Isomalt, pre-tempered, and often you're going to see me today or hear me refer to Isomalt as sugar. And it is a sugar supplement used in a lot of candy, like lollipops and such, sugar-free. So what I've done is I have pre-melted the blue, and I'm going to show you right now the bird, actually, that has been done now it's probably 2 years old, mounted on just a styrofoam dummy. And the tail feathers are made from Isomalt, and then I take the chain with another color and pull it through. So there is the blown sugar and little crown. So it is fantasy. I'm just going to set it over here for a few minutes. We have, I think we have an hour and 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cool the sugar, and I like to cool it to a nice, tight pull. And this is a pipe, and I have a torch, silicone stir. I'm just going to make sure that this, I like to give it a little stir to make sure that it's fully melted down into the middle. And if not, I just give it a couple more seconds. And even when you do stir it, you should do a few more seconds in the microwave because you can get a lot of air bubbles. Also, I wanted to point out that the type of blue that I'm using is just a wonderful, it's called blue glitter. And it's got the glitter already in it. So let's say when you are using it, the light shines on it and it glitters back at you. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm put the camera down a little bit here so that you can see what I'm doing. This is it melted down. It has boiled, but it's a little still muddy consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the microwave for another 15 seconds. And give people some time to get on. Just 1 minute. I'm just going to the microwave and give it a little warm up. be enough for me. I already have warmed it up, and it has already come to a rapid boil. Now this looks like a lot. I'm kind of that way. I always do a little bit extra just in case I want to do some little pieces onto the bird or to use it for the crown. So I'm just going to pour this on. This mat that I'm using today comes also from semicakes.com, and it's very flexible. So I'm going to pull this and put a little air into it. I don't know whether you can see the glitter in that, but it is beautiful. So after you're finished with this, you do want to set it aside out of your way so that it doesn't get knocked over and burn with you. So where I've poured this on top of my granite, it'll be warm underneath. So as I'm cooling it, I'm going to move it around a little bit, and then when I start to blow it, I'm going to work with a fan. So as I start, I'm going to just tap it down there, and if you notice, I've got gloves on. I'm just wearing the plain glove. I am not wearing the gloves with a cotton underneath it, but if you're beginning and you are working with isomalt and all sugars, you should have a cotton glove underneath, and then this glove goes over top of it. So I'm just going to go back and forth and cool it off, and as it cools, it's going to get a little more rigidity into it, and back and forth, and keep it in a good direction. It's getting a little tighter now. I'm just going to move it over a little bit. You can still see me, just into a cooler spot. And also, you should, while you're working with this, take your time. Also to enjoy it, but also to take your time, that it comes right down to the tightness that you would want to have when you blow it. And you can see how it's coming together a little bit more. Everybody see that? I'm going to go over this way a little bit. Turn it this way. Pull it. So I'm located in Naples, Florida. And there's a lot of humidity here right now, so we've got the temperature in the room at 76 degrees and air running. It can also take on too much humidity. You see how it's coming apart now? As I give it a little more of a tug, if it starts to stick to the silicone mat, it's really not ready. Don't try to tug it out. If it does get stuck, what I do often when I'm teaching is I show them how to put a little ice cube behind it if it's stuck in one area, rather than pull it off and tear it. So you see how it's see the little bit stuck right there, right underneath. So I'm going to give it another little turn. This is cooled off, and if your hands get a little too hot while you're doing this and pulling, you can take your hands and just rub them on a cooler area, and that will cool your hands off so that you're not feeling the heat while you're pulling this. So I can pick this up, and I'm going to roll it out like this, and then I'm going to start to pull it because it's not sticking anymore. But I know it's not ready to blow, because if you watch this, it's going to go down into a blob. That's too soon. It needs to have some air pulled into it, because I really enjoyed the tightness of the sugar. And also by doing this, you're putting a lot of extra shine and extra air into it. This is one of my loves, and I'm certified in sugar. And you're going to hear some crackling noise, little crackles. That means it's tightening up and it's getting ready to be used. Right now it's a little limp. See? Little limp for blowing sugar. And of course it's alive, so therefore I want it to be absolutely successful. And you can run into having to use your spare birds for the rest of the demo. See how nice and tight that's getting? And I'm going to fan over here on a little bit of rubber, just sitting here. I usually use a very large fan, but in this case I'm using the smaller one because my larger one makes quite a bit of noise. So I'm going to just roll this out into a ball and see if there's any crackling effect. The other thing about pulling is that you want to try to pull it all in the same direction. This is getting nice and tight. I like it nice and tight. If you pull it too much, then it'll dry it right out. So I'm going to form a ball, just like this. I got my tubing tort. I'm going to make kind of like a mushroom image, just like this. And then I'm going to clip this off and turn it over. And I'm going to set this aside into my cup, so if we need to use it again. So I'm going to form this with a heavy part up here because I want to make a neck for the bird. So you see how I'm forming it evenly around my thumb, and there's an opening there. So what I'm going to do is just put a little heat on the end of my tempered pump. And the end of my pump does have some residual sugar left on it because I like it to stick, but you must always check. So then I'm going around here and I'm going to secure it on the pipe. And it's a copper pipe, so you know the heat can transfer down. Now for your benefit, I'm just making a little ball on top and forming it around my hand like this. I'm going to give it a little pump and just let some air go into it. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to form similar to, like, I want it to look like a bowling pin. Now that's quite odd, but I want to shape it into the neck for the bird and still have enough room. And I like to have these little areas here that it looks like it's being pulled up. Now sometimes if it's too tight, then you're going to have a problem of cracking. You just see how I'm pulling that out? And I'm making the neck and the head. I'm going to form it tight. And it's okay that that goes together. Now I'm putting a little more air into the body, gently. I turn it upside down so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to pull, give it some more air, shape it. We want it to be a little larger than this. Shaping it. Shaping it. If you see an area here, like in here, that it looks like it's really, really much going to pop, you can lay it down. I'm going to pump some air into it and pull, 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 and I've sealed it up on the back side. Okay, so we're going to now start to use I'm going to put this in front of my fan. You can see me in the corner there. I'm working with the fan on the neck. I'm going to give it another little bit of air so it has a body. And maybe make the neck just a little longer. That's it. Want to seal up the neck, not so much the body. Give it a little bit more air. And I'm going to twist this. I'm pushing in on the bottom here. And I'm going to form his head to come up. Stroke it nicely. Use the fan on it a little bit here. Can still use it this way. And I want it to be able to sit. I can still put a little more air into it. Easy, easy. Straighten up the neck. Now it takes a little while for this to cool. It can fool you. You just take your very patiently, and I'm going to push down on that a little bit. I put little dents in there, that's okay. I'm making the floor for the bottom of the bird so it will sit. I'm just going to cool the neck part off a little bit more. Turn his head just a little bit attitude. A little attitude doesn't hurt. I'm just stretching that up a little bit more and bending it a little bit more this way. It still has heat in it, as you can tell. This usually takes me about 15 minutes. That's not prepping the sugar, though. That's what I mean by prepping the sugar is heating the sugar up first and then getting it to the right temperature on the silicone mat in order for it to be able to be pulled. So I'm not going to do any great magical things. See, it's flat on the bottom, and I gotta see it's turning this way. So it's kind of taking on his personality, and the neck is in portion to the body. And if I want to give him more security, I just kind of put my finger underneath so he doesn't bow down and move. And I was telling Melinda when she was booking me that, you know, I need a little more time depending on the humidity in the house and how much heat is still left in the blown sugar. Now we still have a pipe that's still in the end here, and I'm just going to leave that there for a little while because I use the end part, which a lot of people ask, how do you put the feathers on? Well, I use part of this as a security, and I'm going to show you shortly how I pull that out. And what I do to test to see if it's the right temperature I just put the bulb up against my face a little bit like this, and it'll tell me whether it's okay. Now, the neck possibly could still move, but we're going to let that cool. And my husband's here with me, and if there aren't any questions, I'm going to have him come over here in front of the fan and just let it cool. And then I'm going to take it off the pipe. So I'm just going to, it's nice to have an extra person. if I didn't have the extra person, you can just like hold that gently. You have them up here, hold it gently like that, just like that. And it's going to cool now. If I didn't have an extra person, what I often do is I use these little silicone cups, or I use a glass, I use glass, then I line it with plastic wrap and set it in there so that it will cool. But because I want the tail on it right now, and I'm going to pour, heat up some just leftover sugar right now, and I'm going to pour a base for it. And that'll just take me a minute, and I'll be right back. Now this isomalt, or sugar, that I'm using right now is leftover and has been used many, many times for different projects that I have. And I use the already sprayed isomalt for bases, like for this bird. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to pour some in here, and I'm going to wait, put the fan on it, and cool it off real quick. Or I think probably this would be the better one, because I want to use this for the tails. So you can make it in any shape. These noodles you can get also semi-isomalt. My code for 10% up is capital J, capital A, capital R, capital E, capital I, capital L, capital L, capital Y. And you can try that out if you're ordering anything off. Now you can make these in any shape you want. What I want is, this time I'm not going to bring it down real close, because this one's going to sit straight onto, and its feathers are going to go up. So I'm just going to give it that much, and then pull it, let it set up, and then we'll put the bird on it so it's secure to put your feathers on. And sometimes isomalt or sugar that has been used so many times, it takes it a little while longer to melt. So what I'm going to do here now is remove my, and pull this isomalt down off the sides of my silicone bowl, so that I have some nice extra, just in case I need it. For the feathers, what we're going to use is we're going to use clear isomalt, and then we're going to dip excuse me, just got that out of sync there. We're going to dip the chains into semi-color splash. These colors are awesome, and she has a whole set of them. And the white that she has will last you forever and ever and ever, and you do have to dilute it on some things. I use it in my buttercreams, but it's very nice. And she has a yellow, blue, red. I'm just giving this a little twirl around, and getting it to liquefy it is a little tough because I've used this for many bases. You don't want to turn it up too high because you don't want to burn the sugar. Yeah, you want to just check that just in case it goes. It shouldn't. It's pretty stable right now in front of the fan. I can show it to you. It's just if Dave can take his hand off it, and you can see that it'll stay there. Just in case it doesn't, we're just having them stay there with it. Okay? You see it sitting there just cooling off. Don't put your fingers down there, up here. Yep. I'll be right back. My microwave is right beside me. So this has got a few lumps in it, as you can see in here, because it's older, and I'm just going to give it a little swirl. And I like that to stabilize the bottom case of it. Sometimes if we're doing show pieces, we'll drop still pieces of isomalt that has not been melted down to give it security within the sugar that has been melted down. So like if you were going up on a show piece. So I'm just going to pour this in this mat. And as you're pouring, let the sugar work for you. We're going to get one of those lumps, but I'll take that little guy out of there. She also, Sydney on Isomalt sells these tools also. So I'm just going to drag that down there. And this is okay because this is the base, and if you didn't like the color of it and you wanted to change the color, you can airbrush it and change it to the color that you may like to have under your bird. So I'm going to change this out and set this to the side and let it set up. And it won't take long for it to set up. Move this isomalt out of my way. And I'm going to take the bird off the pipe now, because what I do and hear a lot from people that are watching demos, they want to know about the stickiness. And it is a little sticky right now, but I'm going to spray it with PME glaze. And I think Sydney and her family at Semi sell these. If not, you can find them online. And you use the glaze. Sometimes I spray it with a little, the isomalt or the blown sugar or the showpiece while it's still a little warm, because I found down here, I ran into some trouble and called Sydney and said, listen, why is my isomalt pocketing and taking on such moisture, and I've sprayed it already. And she said, well, at times you have to spray it while it's still got a little bit of heat in it, and usually down here in Southwest Florida, because I used to live up north. So I've been doing this for over 30 years and never ran into that. So she helped me with that, and she's quite available, and so am I, very available. If you see me on my page, you'll see my phone number, and if you run into trouble or you have a question, you can call me. So this is PME spray, and what I recommend is that you do not spray it on your countertop. That I use leftover parchment paper, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bird off of the pump. And what I'm going to use is my torch, lift it up, and I'm going to torch that. To get it nice and hot. And I'm working on a silicone mat. And yes, we don't want it to. So we might have to give it a little more heat. Let it travel. Without breaking the bird. See, I just pull very gently, slowly, and it's going to come out, so I do not want to ricochet, okay? You got to be careful that you don't ricochet. So that now has a leftover hole inside of the bird. What I want to do is heat that up a little bit. I'm going to set this aside, and that's ready in order to do the next one, unless I want to clean it off. How do you clean it off? I just torch it and I wipe it off. with one of my rags, and then I throw the rag in the dishwasher, or in, excuse me, in the washing machine and clean it. But what you want to do before you use it again is pump it and make sure there's no sugar in it and not near your face, because it can pop and burn you. That's just a little hint there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up a little bit more, all the way around. And I'm going to take my scissors right now and trim this, if it'll let me. And it will. I just got to give it some time to get the heat in there. And if not, then we won't bother, because I'll cover it up with feathers without breaking the bird. Gently, not forcible. Got some nice little gems at the bottom. There we go. I'm just going to take that and form it around, just like that. So now I'm going to remove these little pieces, and put it into my cup. The next thing I'm going to do is spray with the glaze. And then what I'll do after I spray this part with the glaze, and I use my parchment paper, so I do not have to worry about it getting all over. I'm going to lay this down just in case it wants to go to the floor and get broken. So with PME glaze, it is a sap that is edible, and you can spray. But I always check the nozzle first before I spray it to make sure that it is in a spray form and not in a full shot of liquid. I'm just going to give the head a little spray here, very gently, not saturate it. And if your sugar or your isomalt starts to, get a little not shiny, you can give it another spray, because like I said, my piece is 4 years old. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prop this up in front of the fan so that the glaze will dry. I just use my little cups around it for support. And usually when I'm doing a showpiece, if I was doing a bird, I would probably make more than one. Also, these are used for the toppers of your cakes. Okay, so I'm going to move this back. See, we're just going to show you it propped up. I just put props around it. I think you can see that. And then the fan is on this side of it. So now we're going to do some feathers in chain art. How's our time? I think we're pretty good so far. Okay. We're going to check. It's a good idea to put the lid back on that PME glaze, because it can harden up. So when you're checking a sugar piece that you're waiting to set up, it's a good idea to use your tool, not your finger, to see if it's set up enough. Now, if I wanted to do this on top of a cake and I wanted the tail to come down so that I could cascade the feathers down rather than standing up, I would have done a longer piece and pull this off while it's still warm, so it can be shaped what I'm going to do right now is pull it off, and it's still a little warm. I don't really need to shape this one because I have one that's already done over there that can show you what I mean. But you see how easy that comes off. And it's still got a little heat in it, but if I wanted to form it, contour it, or have this part go down and make it longer with my noodle, then I would attach the feathers going down. And I'm going to show you a piece that I did that way. So the tail feathers would then be going, cascading down this way, instead of having the fan. And a lot of people that I've taught have liked to do it this way because they then can bring it down over and cascading for their cake design. And so this one has its crown on it, and not totally finished decorating, but we have that as a spare. This is a dummy cake that I've done in different colors because I found out this is Fiesta and my bird doesn't look that Fiesta. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you that you can stick isomalt onto fondant. And also remember that this is a torch, and be careful. So we're just going to heat that fondant up a little bit. And if I want, I can heat this up a little bit. And then that will stick. I'll just hold that down and stick that to the fondant. And then what I'll do is I'll heat this up again and put the bird on there. But right now I'm going to wait until all the heat is out of this, because that means that I would be adding more heat to the bird and it could move. It's hidden, but it's there, because if I put my hand on it, I can feel the heat rising up. So when you're sticking something with isomalt, you got to remember it is hot, and if it's going onto a blown sugar, you're putting in heat. So you wait and hold it, or make sure that you have, or you've dipped in isomalt. So I'm just going to ask my husband if he'll go and warm up my sugar or my isomalt for making the feathers. Now see, if you see that there's a little lump at the end, a little lump of sugar at the end, you can just take your torch and touch that, or else turn that piece upside down, and it just kind of disappears. You can wait until it's cool, or you can take your scissors and just snip that off nicely and smooth that out. And you've got a nice piece that's there to mount the bird on. And we will do that as soon as I know that all the heat is out of this and this is cooled off enough. So we're going to set that aside over here. And I'm going to get my chains out. Sounds pretty weird, doesn't it? And you can get them at Hobby Lobby for making jewelry, or you can get them at Home Depot. And they are made of stainless steel, just the same as you would your pots and your cooking utensils are, so they're food safe. I'm just going to show you. I keep them in a small container like this. Yeah, you want to give it another 30. You want to get it all melted down. So right now, just 15 seconds at a time. So we have, this is the size that I'm using, and it's 2.5 in the circumference of it. And this one is, these are a little smaller, and we're going to use the little larger ones today. Also what I have is I have a bowl with some water in it, and after I dip the chain in the isomalt, into the color, it'll have some isomalt residue left on the chain, so I set the chain into water to melt it down. So you need to have a bowl, and this is just extra isomalt that I've been using, and this isomalt has been used and sprayed a few times, and this is what I mean. I save all of this, and it can be my base for, okay, so what Dave has just done is he's got my clear sugar at a boiling point. So now what I need to do is let it settle until it's not boiling and all those bubbles go out of it. And I'm going to lay the chains over here to the side. Thank you, Dave. I don't know whether anybody's had any questions, but I'm hoping that you will get in touch with me if you do have any questions, if I haven't answered any. Now you notice how dark that is, but that's that blue, ocean blue, from semicakes.com.
Can you refrigerate the cake with the isomalt bird?
Do you know that everybody that uses isomalt asks that question? That is a very good question. I do not put the topper or the deco parts on the cake until it comes out of the refrigerator. I have done it, and I did it with gems, and what I did is I used large piece like this and then attached all the gems around it and then attached it to the cake. And I did have to do that because I had such amount of little gems that I was putting into that. And what I did with it after I brought it out, I used, now this is going to be, this is like not normal, but it's me. I took the torch and I clicked on the side and brought it back up to shine. And then I circled around it with some painter's tape, all the pieces that I had on it, and I sprayed it with the PME spray. The pieces that I put on the top, I put them on last, and most times they are pieces, they could be much larger than the bird, or it could be your lettering for a bride and groom. I usually put it on last. I don't take the risk of that. The smaller the piece, the harder it is to bring it back. So the answer is I would not put it in the refrigerator, because refrigerators are moisture. And it's kind of like me going outside now and showing you what could happen to this bird, because there's so much humidity in Southwest Florida. But a very, very good question, because I get that. Now, this is the blue, this is the chains, and what I'm going to do is, you can see that I have the blue sitting here, but I'm going to move it away from myself a little bit more so it doesn't, so I have room over here. And I'm going to move the chains out of the way. And what I like to do is get the isomalt to rest a little bit. Now, if you do it and the isomalt hasn't rested enough, what you're going to have when you pull the chain through is hollowness at the top. Not necessarily too bad, but it's very hard to pull off the mat then. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you some, and then I'm going to, the other thing I want to bring up is, once I dip this, because this is hot sugar, the other question I get a lot when I'm doing this is that in a class they'll say, well, how does it dry? Well, the isomalt, because it's so hot, hits the color, which is an airbrush color, and it sets up. So it's kind of like a science project. So I'm just going to dip the middle part of that chain in the color. I'm going to take this and set it over to my side, because I like putting the isomalt on that. And Dave will you don't want any water on your counter. I just found some water on the counter. So we'll just wipe that off, put that over there. I like to set this on a mat so that it doesn't cool too quickly. So I'm just going to pour that size about a quarter. And I'm going to take the chain, swipe it off a little bit. I'm going to drop it down to its side, let it rest for a second or two, and I'm just going to pull that through like that, rip it around, take that and put it into the water. This part here we're going to use, if you notice, it's got the ripples from the chain. So I'm going to set another one in there, and I'm just doing the middle part of the chain, and only about a quarter size. You can make them in different sizes to fit whatever your fantasy bird is going to look like. And it doesn't have to be a peacock. It can be anything. I do this on cookies also with royal icing. And I left a little gap at the top, and I like that because if you want to accent it in, and you see I'm just dropping that into the water bowl. You see that? So then I'm going to drop this, just part of it, not all of it, depending on the size that you're making. And another little dollop. And if there's a little air bubble in there, don't worry too much about it because it's going to pop. And if you don't like that air bubble there, just give it a little shot with the torch. Sometimes my terminology isn't like up to crack. And so we just pull it gently through that, wrap over the ends, pull up on it, and give it a little whirl. And some of them would be a little different, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sparkle them up with some gold. Make another little dollop. And if you're like me and you forgot the chain, don't worry too much about that because you just dip it in there. And then you just kind of set it around the edging or right on it if you want, whichever. And you just pull it through, cross the chain over, and pull that out so you have an end to it. It's going to put another little dollop over here. And you can do like 25 or 30 of them out of just half a container of the isomalt. And I changed the sizing on them. And I tried it many times with the white isomalt, and not necessarily did I like it because I like it to be able to see through the feather when it sits up, and you'll be able to see that. What's our time?
5:30.
So we have half an hour, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish these and let them set to the side, and we're going to start to attach some feathers that I have pre-made, and these we'll also use. I'm just going to make a smaller one here just in case. I make the little ones for the side of the bird. So we're just going to set that water bowl over there, and you just let it soak. And what will happen is the sugar will melt off it. If you don't want to wait, you just drain that off and have a strainer so it does the chains don't go down your drain. My husband saved me one time because they were going to go down the drain. So then I put the rest of them back into the container, and if you want to put them in a Ziploc bag or anything like that, it's just easier to find them when you go to use them. You can paint these in any color that you want. I use, in order to put the glitter on, I use vodka. Because the reason for that is or Everclear, it dries like that. And your sugar or your isomalt, it doesn't melt it down. You can also use your piping glaze. I'm just going to set those in front of me so that they can just sit there and dry. And then I'm going to bring the cake mounting back over. So we've got this roughage in here, and you don't have to have that. You know, your sugar, leftover sugar, it's just that I've had this and reused it and reused it and reused it, and I use it for a base. And then if I did, like I said, if I didn't like this color before I put it onto the cake, and the question is, yes, you would mount it, save it, then mount it onto your cake just before delivery. Or you can deliver it to them and then put it on. And anytime that I'm traveling and it's already been mounted on a cake, I wrap it with loosely wrapped plastic wrap. The reason for that is not because I don't want it to, or it's going to take on the moisture or anything like that. It saves it from breakage in traveling. And then if this was the top tier, the other tiers are done. I have the isomalt with me. I use my torch in a lot of cases to melt small pieces of isomalt to attach the other decor, if there's a flower, a pulled flower, or a rose that I'm putting on and it's made out of isomalt. And similar to a gum paste, if you're making gum paste flowers and you're not wiring and they don't go into it, and or you're competing, you can also use isomalt to stick it. And then that means you do not have to embed anything into your cake or your real cake with floral tape on it. Now in competitions, you usually have to put a straw in to show that you have protected the green floral tape or the red or the white floral tape from penetrating into cake. Usually at a competition it is a dummy cake, but they do require that because your cake is supposed to be able to become a real cake. So this way, by using isomalt, what I have found is, let's say I might have a piece going down here and I stick it, my flowers, on with isomalt. And it works very, very well. So there's still a little residual heat in there, but I think the bird can take it. And if it can't, then we'll use the other one. But I am going to bring it over the other one. So I'm just going to torch that a little bit. And if I didn't want to torch it, you have to be careful of doing that to the bottom of the bird because it is hollow. Use a little fan here. Are there any questions on there, Dave? Everybody's good?
Everybody's good. A lot of people saying hello, but I can't give you all the names.
Hello, everybody. I will look later and I will answer you all. Okay, so we got a little security going on there. Seems to be liking it where it's nested. I'm going to take a little, make a beak for this, little crown. See, there is still movement. So that it was fooling me, see? So it came off. So it needs a little more of a torch. A little more heat. Be careful it doesn't crack. You just put it on there. Give it some attitude. Turn it sideways. Now right here you could also have attached that, and I still can. Just hold it down. And like I said, you need to take your time. But it travels very well. I've traveled all over the place with sugar toppers and art pieces. It's very versatile though. It's great for sticking onto, even onto a buttercream. You just have to put your piece on there and just let it rest and it works. I use royal icing also, dummy cakes, and stick the pieces on there. So we're going to let this rest for a little while over here. And I'm going to bring this bird over to you. And I'm going to start to put on some tail feathers down through here. Because I think, you know, it's always good to see that in case we run out of time. And I will also paint the other ones that we just put on and make it fan at the back. You know, so I've took a little piece and I made a beak. Sometimes the beak's a little longer, depends on how whimsical you are. Then I just painted the eyes in. Just in gold on the side, just with a small brush. Then I painted the top, and then I dipped, let's see here, I dipped the ends in sparkle to match the tail feathers. So these have been made for a little while, but we're going to, you know, try to go this way. Now you can either use heat, or you can use dipping and to Isomalt. I'm going to use a little heat here. Hold it. And a lot of people don't use cold spray. I seem to be the person that does. But I don't use it right next to it. And the chefs that trained me, they all use it too. But you can, the reason that a lot of people don't recommend cold spray is it can crack all your work. Because I want to move along here. If I can get this guy to nozzle, it'll be good. I'll speak with you in just a minute. It's going to be stubborn, is it? We're going to take another avenue, not use the cold spray. We're going to use the fan. Just move this over here. Turn that way. So I'm going to torch the end of this. And there. Stick that there. Little fan. You have to turn it away from you if you're using your torch. And remember, you're adding heat to sugar, Isomalt. And I have laid these out already. Just a little heat, not much. Another thing I do is I use a hair blower for bending them if I need to. I'm going to try to put the nozzle on that cold. It won't go on?
No. 15 minutes.
Well, we might go over a little bit, but we're not gonna go over that much. Dry. So the ones that we did just a little while ago, they're dry. So what I'm doing here right now is just attaching these on, just willy-nilly. But you get the idea. And bend that down and put a little more heat on that one. Let it set for a second. Bend it. Snap that off. Piece in there. There's the filler. Another piece in there. Another small piece here. Then you can also attach the rest of them going up and around. So, I'm going to move the parchment out of the way. And we're just going to do it on this bird. He's prepped this little part up here. I'm going to show you how these come off, and I can put my, move this over a little bit and show you how this can come off. And you can use any silicone mat, and they peel off nicely. And just set them back onto silicone. And then what I do is I spray them with PME spray to the ones that we just attached. They're quite old, the ones that I just put on there, but you can see that they take on a very nice cascading look, and you can decorate them in any way that you might want to. Have a little bit of a necktie for the neck on this bird, but I'm going to show you how I paint these. We use a little paper towel over here, and I'm going to get some of my gold. This comes from the Sugar Art collection. Nice and sparkly. I'm going to put a little vodka in my dish. Just a little couple squirts in there so that you can see me do this. And then we'll put the tail feathers on the bird. So we have this. And now if they're sticky, sometimes you don't need to even wet this down. Another And you see what I'm doing? And we just give it a little sparkle on the sides of it. Now, if you just wanted to do it while it's sticky, you can do that also, rather than use the vodka, and then spray it with PME. But you can see how you can see straight through to the other side. And it gives you that look. And that's what I would do with every single one of them. And I have some prepared here, and we're going to, now that the heat is probably rested on this part of the tail, we can then do the rest of its cascading up. And I think we still have a little time to do that.
10 minutes.
We might go over just about a couple minutes, but I want you to see the finished product, and it won't be long. So I'm gonna heat this little necktie up just a little bit so that it sticks on the inner part of it, and burn the parchment paper. Give it a little stick right there. Better if we just move that along. It's kind of a pretty little ornament with a heart on it. Being stubborn. Heat to heat, and it'll stick. I can't use my cold spray, so I have to use the fan. And you can just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, and it flares. Do you want to put maybe that over there? Move that over there. And use the bird to secure it. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this around for you to see it, and I think we're out of time, but this is basically,
You've got 5 minutes.
I've got 5 minutes?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to put another bunch of them on here now. It works for me. I like to use cold spray as I spray these on. And like I said, a lot of people don't use cold spray. So I'm just going to dab that down, put that in there so it stands up. I'm using the fan, so it takes me a little longer. It's okay to use the fan. You should be using a fan, actually. I'm just really... I pre-did these exactly the same as what you saw that I used. Put that up in there. You watch that torch, it doesn't fall on the floor. I could push it down and we could have a big break. Okay? And then it just keeps going all the way around. And what I do on the sides, I'll show you on the other bird, is I attach smaller pieces like by breaking them in half to make the side feathers. You have to watch also when you're doing using the fan plus the torch that you don't hit. And there's a bottle at the side over there, Dave. If you just would like to move that little bottle, because I have a little bottle sitting over there that looks like it's from the icing images, but I used it all up, and so therefore I am now using it for my spray for my vodka. So I'm just going to attach this last one in here. And the other thing you can do with this is turn them around the opposite way on the fanning out part. In other words, you could put some going this way to, but you can see straight through them when you first do them fresh. Some of these are like ancient. They've been around for some of my classes.
Just about 5 minutes.
Okay, I have one more to do the centerpiece, and I usually pick the one I like the best for that. And this one's got a curvature to it and very see-through-y. I'm going to snip this. I'm going to put a little heat on it and then cut it so that it will then snap off easily. So I squared off the edge, and I'm going to put it right in here. Hope everybody got any questions and that I can answer. Just put them on there and I'll get back to you. So also what you can do is, because you've got a base, you can bring these all the way around or as high as you want, one on top of each other, and keep building it. With caution, of course, because like I said, it's heat on heat. But it doesn't, because I wanted to do the bird right from scratch and blow it, I could have just, used this little guy. But it makes me have a challenge also. And yes, I would have been using just a little distance of cold spray with each one of these, not onto the bird. Okay, so now I was doing that backwards. In here, in the interior part, right down in here, you would put more feathers in there because I've got lots of feathers. So then they just go in there and you just keep building them up. I'm going to show you that one right now. Just right like that. And then what I would do is just give it a little shot of cold spray and just keep building them. And then along the side I would lay them flat, like this, flat going this way, all the way up.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
Pardon me?
It's 6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock, the bell is rung. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm just going to hold it up for you. If you have any questions, you need to get in touch with me. And so there it is. I'm going to turn this around, and you'll see where I would eventually use the rest of the feathers and bring them. I put the ones that are fanning on first, and then I build up the center part as you go along. And you can cascade that right down to a tiered cake. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed being with you, and have a good night. I think Susan is on next, and I can't wait to watch her. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.